Imagine planting a vegetable exactly one time in your life, and then, every single year after that, without buying new seeds, without starting new seedlings, without tilling the bed and doing it all over again, that same patch of ground just gives you food, not for one extra season, not for a couple of bonus years, in some cases, for decades. This isn't some fringe permaculture fantasy. It's a well-documented category of plants that has existed for as long as agriculture itself, and there's a very specific reason most home gardeners have never been taught about it. Today I'm walking you through exactly what these plants are, why almost nobody grows them, and the handful you should be planting this year if you want a garden that quietly works for you instead of the other way around. Here's the uncomfortable truth about why you don't already know this. The entire modern gardening industry, seed companies, garden centers, even a huge chunk of gardening content online, is built around an annual cycle. You buy seeds, you grow the plant, it dies at the end of the season, and next year you buy seeds again. That cycle is incredibly profitable for everyone selling you inputs, and it's also just what got normalized as what a vegetable garden is supposed to look like. Perennial vegetables break that entire cycle. You plant them once, they establish a root system, and then they simply come back, year after year, with dramatically less work than starting from seed every single spring. There's very little financial incentive for anyone to push this information at scale, so it just quietly exists on the margins, known mostly by old-school gardeners, permaculture practitioners, and people who've been doing this long enough to figure it out on their own. Let's get into the actual plants, starting with the most well-known one, asparagus. Asparagus is the classic example of a plant once harvest forever vegetable, and once established, a healthy asparagus bed can keep producing tender spears every single spring for 15 to 30 years. The catch is patience. You need to let the crowns fully establish for the first year or two without harvesting anything, so the plant can build a strong enough root system to support decades of future growth. Once that foundation is in place though, every spring becomes almost automatic. Next, rhubarb. Rhubarb is another long-lived perennial, producing those signature tart red stalks year after year with minimal input beyond the occasional division of the crown every several years to keep it vigorous. It's extremely cold-hardy, thrives in a wide range of soils, and once established, a single rhubarb plant can realistically keep producing for a decade or more. Number 3. Egyptian walking onions. These are one of the strangest and most fascinating perennial vegetables you can grow. Instead of producing seeds in the ground like a normal onion, they grow small bulblets at the top of the stalk. As those bulblets get heavy, the stalk bends over, the bulblets touch the ground, and root themselves right where they land, meaning the plant literally walks across your garden a little further every year, continuously producing new onions without you ever having to replant a single bulb. Number 4. Sorrel. Sorrel is a leafy green, with a sharp lemony flavor that comes back reliably every spring with almost no maintenance. It tolerates a wide range of soils and climates, spreads easily, and gives you an early season green well before most annual crops are even in the ground. Number 5. Jerusalem artichokes, also called sunchokes. These produce nutty flavored tubers underground, similar in texture to a potato, and the plant itself is remarkably vigorous, often described as almost too easy to grow because it can spread aggressively if left unchecked. Planted once in a dedicated bed, sunchokes will reliably produce a fall harvest of tubers year after year with essentially no replanting required. Number 6. Perennial kale, sometimes called tree collards or Dobinton's kale. Unlike the annual kale most people are used to buying as seedlings every spring, perennial varieties of kale can be propagated from cuttings and will continue producing edible leaves across multiple seasons, in some climates almost year-round, without ever needing to be reseeded. Number 7. Good King Henry, an old-world perennial green that was a staple in European gardens for centuries before falling out of common knowledge. The young leaves and shoots are edible and taste somewhat similar to spinach, and once established, the plant reliably returns every spring for many years. Number 8. Perpetual spinach, which despite the name is actually a type of chard rather than true spinach. It behaves like a perennial in milder climates, providing a continuous, almost year-round harvest of tender greens with none of the bolting issues that plague true annual spinach during warm weather. Number 9. Horseradish. Once planted, horseradish is nearly impossible to fully remove, which sounds like a downside until you realize that means you get a reliable, pungent root harvest every single year with zero replanting, as long as you keep it contained to stop it from spreading into areas you don't want it. And number 10. Artichokes. In the right climate, in milder growing zones, Artichokes behave as true perennials, and a single planting can continue producing those large edible flower buds for up to 5 years or more before needing to be replaced. So here's what all 10 of these plants have in common. You do the work once, establishing the bed properly, giving the roots time to settle in, and after that initial investment, they largely take care of themselves, coming back year after year, while most of your neighbors are out there every single spring buying seed packets and starting completely from scratch. That's not a small difference over time. Over a decade, a well-planted perennial vegetable bed can save you an enormous amount of money, time, and effort, all while quietly outproducing a garden that has to be rebuilt from zero every single season. If even one of these ends up in your garden this year, you're already ahead of most people growing food right now. Subscribe, because next I'm covering the exact layout and spacing strategy for building a dedicated perennial vegetable bed from scratch, so you can set this whole system up correctly the very first time, instead of having to redo it later.